In the last video, we set up our procedure and our web API to pull all of the entries from our server data table. Now, we need to move over, and we've already gotten to where we can receive it in our game, but we don't have any way to actually make use of it. Currently, it's just a string. So what we need to do, we need to convert it from a string to JSON objects to a UStruct that we will be making. That pretty much replicates this. So one thing we need to do is change up our string. So currently, if we were to just have one entry, let's say it's just this entry, the test server 1, the response message that we get would look like this. What we need it to look like is this. So we can use response as kind of like a tag to pretty much just, well, you'll kind of see as we go. So we can go ahead and construct our new string. So f string response string equals a response string. Then I'm going to print out a response string so we can see what changes we have made and if they're right. So what I'm going to do is I need to add a opening curly brace and our tag to the beginning. So response string dot insert at, and index 0 is where we're going to put it. And we want to add what I have highlighted here. So opening curly brace, response, and then a colon. So we're going to do opening curly brace. Then we need to do backslash quote. That's so we can input a quote into our string. Response, then backslash quote again, and then a colon. Now we need one final thing, which is a closing curly brace at the very end. So we're going to do response string dot append char. Just do a single quote, and we're going to append a closing curly brace to the end. So I'm going to go ahead and compile and then test, and we will see and make sure that the string is what we want. There we go. All right, press our GetAllServers button, and here we have our string. So we have our opening and our closing with our tag and colon set up correctly. So now we can continue. So up next, we need to create a JSON object, a JSON reader, and then we go through and we de-serialize it. So let's go ahead and do that. We already created a JSON serializer and writer here. So I'm going to copy the JSON JSON object, and the JSON writer, sorry, and convert it to a reader. It's going to be GJSON reader, move the tchar to the reader factory template, like so. Let's see, remember what the parameters were? Should just be our response string then, like so. So now we have our reader. What we need to do now is deserialize it. So if JSON serializer de-serialize, the parameters are going to be our reader, so JSON reader. Second parameter is going to be our JSON object. And we're going to do another check, so if JSON object is valid, then we're good to go. So the de-serialize returns a bool, then we want to confirm it with is valid to make sure it is in fact valid. Once we have that, we can go ahead and We want to create an array of the tJSON value type, and we're going to be using our response tag here to get the array field, or the kind of like the parameters. So there's two of these essentially. Well, there's going to be several, but currently we have two. So we would have an array of two. So we're going to make a t-shared pointer of was f.json value. Call this one JSON value. That's going to equal to JSON object dot or get array field, then the field name. So I want to do text, and what we're going to get is response. Let's see here. Oh, duh. It's a T array of this type. So this should store the array into our JSON value variable. And up next, we can go ahead and create an array of our server data. So that we need to construct. So we go to our header, we scroll to the top. Here we already have a UStruct for our map info, but we need different variables in it. So what I'm going to do is copy and paste our fmap info and change it to f server data and change the parameters or the variables. So for starting, we're going to do server ID. That's an integer. Then we have IP address, server name, map name. Then we have current players and max players, like so. Now what we can do is we can do a T array of type f server data. I'm going to call it server list. So then I'm going to do a for loop. So for T shared pointer of type f.json value. I'm going to call it value in JSON value. I'll change it to values. A little better of a naming scheme in my opinion. And this will loop through what we have inside of JSON values. Up next, we want to loop through our JSON array, and we're going to convert value to an object. There we use f.json object converter to convert that JSON object we just made to a UStruct, which is our f server data. So we're going to do value dot so pointer as object, and what it returns is a f.json object. So t shared pointer f.json object. I'll do JSON object, and then we use f.json object converter. Now if we go over to the f.json object converter in the wiki or the docs, we have the include here. So it's include JSON object converter. And we can just paste that at the top. Now, probably gonna have an issue. You might have an include error or something like that. It's not really an actual error. It's just IntelliSense, because as long as you have included JSON utilities in your public dependencies, you should be fine. So if we look through here, we have JSON object to UStruct. So we have a JSON object right here, and we can use this function to convert it to a UStruct. So what I'm going to do, I want to make a new f server data. So f server data, I'll call it server data. And I'm going to convert it. So we're going to do what was it called? JSON object converter. Then JSON object to UStruct. Make sure I'm spelling it right. Then we have the first parameter as a t-shared reference to a JSON object. So JSON object dot to shared ref. Then the next parameter is our UStruct. So it's going to be server data. Then the outs, because there should be a couple of different constructors, I think. Should be able to just do 0 and 0 because we don't care about those. So just for syntax, I'm going to press Alt-Enter. Go ahead and just include at the top. Wait for IntelliSense to pick up. There we go. And you can see all the parameters. So our JSON object, our structure, and pretty much just 2 integers that we don't really have to worry about. So now that we have that, let's see, does it return anything? It returns a Boolean. So I'm going to print out a message. So if for this, UE log, JSON object to UStruct success. And if it's valid, I'm going to do server list dot add. What I'm going to add is server data. Maybe a reference to it. Yeah, that's why. Right. So now I'm going to remove this include up here and compile. And it should be okay, even though it's throwing a little fit. All right, we compiled. Can launch it up and test. And we should have it output that message twice. So get servers, JSON object to UStruct success, and JSON object UStruct success. So it did in fact get our 2 entries as intended. So what I'm going to do now is outside of the for loop, I'm going to loop through our server list and just do a check to make sure that it contains the correct data. So for f server data and server list. Find out a UE log. Server name. It's gonna be server data dot server name. Let's see, we have the IP. Try to do it in order. Then the map name. Then we have current players. Then max players. Like so. I'm going to print out one more. End of first server entry. And I guess we can go ahead and do the server ID as well. And let's compile. Okay. And let's hope everything fills out properly. Get servers. Here we have it. Let's go to our database and look. So first entry. Okay, everything is null. So let's add a curiosity. Comment out our setup here. And we're going to try to add the fields manually and see. JSON object.get or pointer get. Let's do get integer field and the field name, server ID, and I'll do one more. Being let's do server name. Change it to get string field. Then add it and we should be good. So when I comment out the IP, map, and players. And let's see if it prints it out correctly this way. All right, so that appeared to have worked. So we have our server ID 123456789, then test server 1. Then we have 6321 yada yada yada, and test server name. Okay. So we're able to add and get the information from the JSON object, but we had an issue with our JSON object to UStruct. So try to fix that in the meantime. If it does not seem to want to work, then I will go back and we will just continue going this route instead. So now that that's one big step out of the way, I will see you in the next one, where we hopefully start to either, well, when we actually fix hopefully this, or continue on doing this manually. So I'll see you then.